Over. I forgot some stuff. Anyway, another installment on the Red Book of Magic. Today's kind of weird. It's cold and wet. No, well, it stopped raining, but there's cold wind coming through, and the wife's got a migraine. We got a couple of errands to run, but otherwise, I'm taking PTO today, so I've got time. Let's do this. Okay. S. Continued. Speak with Scorpion. Oh, maybe we should say just like speak with birds, herd animals, horse, and insects. Blah blah blah. And we do something similar, but we converse with scorpions like we converse with insects, but we don't talk to them like we talk with herd beasts and horses and birds. Okay, any type of scorpion. If the person the caster, right? No, target. The target, this is targeted. The target desires to convince the scorpion, they must use a communication skill, blah, 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 right? Okay, scorpions are teeny, and they may not be able to present very coherent ideas, similar to the insects, but under insects, we specifically say their intelligence is negligible, and hence, they may not be able to convey. This spell acts just like speak with insects, only applies to scorpions of any type. Speak with animals. This is another. Oh, speak with scorpions is new, by the way. Another new one. The target can talk. Oh, we can talk now instead of converse with any small, harmless animal. So badgers are out. Well, dogs. Dogs are not necessarily harmless. Now, neither are cats. I can guarantee that. Okay. Anyway, the creature cannot answer but understands what is being said. But that's not discussed in any of the other non-intelligent animal ones, right? Okay. Spell does not instill intelligence. Good to go. But we did not repeat that with scorpions. Goodness. So they can only comprehend natural awareness. Okay. All the speaking spells you should speak with and put in parentheses, whatever, and then list the things that anybody can do. And then maybe, well, do carapace for both kinds. Maybe, but I still like the idea of just like this other spell, but applies to our thing. Okay, spell trading, old spell, right? Okay, this I was reading through this. I've never done this, but I was reading through this, and I've read through it before. I don't know when, but I remember looking at the spell at one point anyway. Kind of convoluted. Okay, so the caster can trade for a single use any rune spell except spell trading in exchange for a single use of any rune spell known by another rune master. So you have to have an Issaries initiate and a rune master of another cult, according to this definition thus far. Okay, trade must be voluntary. Good to go. Each participant must spend rune points equal to the cost of their traded spell, right? You're trading shield 3 rune points, right? He's giving you speak with Scorpion. It's only one. He's going to add in a handful of buffalo or something, right? Okay. Or maybe even cash. Okay. Now, I have a question mark here, but it's not the trade spell, it's their. THIER. Their traded spell. Okay. Normally, this is specifically a single use of the rune spell, not a one-use spell, as described under the one-use spell. So normally you don't do this with one-use spells. It just gives you a single use of. And that took me a while to get this figured out. Of whatever spell it is they're trading, right? Okay. The spell only works if the caster follows a special procedure. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 parts to this special procedure. First is, must be done in Issaries market. Good to go. Easy. Okay. Next, the traded items must be stated. Nowhere do we talk about items yet. We've always talked about spells. So I thought it meant the traded spells must be stated. And of course you would, right? But there's more negotiation. As you're reading the example, it talks about they trade spells plus half a bison. Okay, so you can say, I'm going to trade you this spell for that spell, but since they're not equivalent, I'm going to give you this other stuff instead. Or I'm giving you such a powerful spell, I want you to give me that spell plus other stuff. So this negotiation has to go on, right? But nowhere in here does it talk about an Isseries initiate, right? Casting a spell for 2 other people. So you can only trade 2 Isseries, right? So between Isseries and other cults. Now, it could be this Isseries guy has got a spell from a different cult that you want to trade for. So you could make a 3-way arrangement, right? As long as everybody's making an agreement. So the Hamakti guy is going to trade True Sword to the Isseries guy for some spell, and then the Isseries guy is going to trade True Sword to the Orlanthi for Summon Arrow, something like that, right? So we could get really convoluted trading going on all at once, or in sequence. Okay. But remember that Isseries, right? The god Isseries. It's his spell trading, right? It's going on. So he insists on a negotiated clear profit for his priest. Okay, here we go. So it must be a priest that casts a spell then, not an initiate. We didn't specify that earlier. So this spell allows an Isseries priest to trade. Yeah, that wasn't in there. Isseries priest. Okay, we got it down here though. The priest, right? Okay. Both parties must exchange a token that represents the spell. Good to go. Easy peasy. In addition to any other traded items, like the half a buffalo or the so many lunars or whatever, right? Okay. It says roll a D100 for each party. I believe what they mean is each party rolls a percentile die, right? If you roll a 1 to a 95, the spell is traded successfully. If you roll 96 or above, automatic failure, right? And they kind of break it up here because it says if the 95 is rolled by both, the spells should be plural. Spells are traded successfully. But if either rolls an automatic failure, then the spell is activated. It should be there. Their spell is activated. If either fail, their spell is activated against the other party. Okay, that makes more sense now. Okay. So, let me give you an example here. If Sun Spear is being traded, the intended target is instead struck by the blast. Okay. Now it says, even if one party fails to trade the spell properly, they still receive the spell from the other party, assuming the other party was successful. Okay. So if both fail, nothing. Well, they both get hit with each other's spell. If both succeed, they trade spells. If one fails, then they receive their spell, but their spell takes effect on the other party. Okay. Next special procedure. Okay. The rune points used to trade a rune spell can be replenished in the regular fashion. I've got a big question mark about this. You've just spent those runes points, they went to the other guy. And it goes down here later about how the other guy is using your rune points to cast the spell. It's tied to the spell. They've got it. What about this whole deal with extension? If the spell has not been cast and is not done with its duration, you can't use those rune points. So I don't get this. Rune points can be replenished in a regular fashion. Maybe after that spell is cast, it could be. Okay. To cast the received spell, no rune points are needed. So you've received the spell. You're using his rune points. You don't use yours. They're tied to the spell. I'm getting a little excited here. Sorry, guys. Sorry, folks. Okay? Okay. And get this. The caster of the received spell uses the relevant rune rating of the person who provided the spell. So not only does the spell come across with the rune points, but with the percentage spell casting rune skill, right? Even if your rune, say they're using the air rune and you both have air rune, and your air rune is higher than his air rune, doesn't matter. It's using his air rune because it's his spell and his rune points. convoluted. Okay. Okay, if you're in fact using a one-use rune spell, then those rune points are permanently removed. That makes sense. When I was reading this, that threw me off. I go, what? What do you mean permanently lost? Okay. As if you had cast it successfully, right? Because we're assuming a successful cast. Okay. The original owners of the spells can still cast their spells because the rune spells are reusable, right? Okay, so what? Why do we need that paragraph? Okay. Oh, provided that all of the requirements of the spell are met. That's defined with casting a spell, right? You've got to have the rune spell, you got to have the rune points, you've got to have the percentage to roll. That's all given, right? Okay. Clarifying paragraph here. No cult trades special rune cult magic lightly. Other cults treat these transactions differently. I think it just to be every cult treats this transaction differently, okay? And the other thing about all Lightbringers, for example, deal with their associated god of histories, their associates, right? But the Earth Goddess allows trades only if the High Priestess of the Temple approves. Good to go. The Nomad gods, Stormbolt and Waha, require their High Priest to be present to negotiate. So the High Priest does the negotiation. And non-human deities are even more reluctant. So lots of GM caveat stuff in this paragraph. Let me give you an example here where they're trading spells, 2 points. There's a Bison also, but she failed, so the other spell took effect on her. No, her spell took effect on the Isries guy, but she still got 2 speed. Okay. Spider limbs. And I know this spell because I've used it in my game. My guys got attacked by people who had access to this spell. Okay. When cast on a spider, I think this is new. It may not be in the old RQ3 Troll Cults book. I didn't double check. Not that important. Okay. When cast on a spider, the spider's movement is doubled and its climb speed is tripled. It becomes immune to webbing, glue, grappling, and entangling attacks. That's massive, especially if I'm talking about a giant spider. Okay. When cast on a non-spider, the target sprouts 4 extra limbs, 2 legs, 2 arms. These 2 extra legs double your movement and double your climb skill, and they render you, the target, immune to natural and magical webbing. Okay, good to go. The 2 arms can hold 2 additional weapons, the little claw things at the end, right? Pincer deals. Okay. While in effect, during the duration, right? We need to say that. When the spell's no longer effect, nothing occurs. Okay. The user receives 1 free attack and 1 free parry per round from these extra arms, right? It should be underneath a separate paragraph kind of thing. Okay. In addition to all your normal stuff. You're still doing your normal stuff, arms act independently. Okay. This free attack occurs on the same stride rank as your primary attack, right? And this free parry simply means you get an extra parry without the modifier. So you get your normal parry, you get your extra parry, and the third parry comes at minus 20 at that point. Pretty cool. I like that. Okay. Okay. New spell. Oh, Spider Linzo is a new spell. Spider Head. New spell. This spell gives, okay, how about when cast on a spider, this spell gives a spider's bite attack the ability to impale. Okay, that kind of means something. Okay, but the jaws never stick in the wound. That's handy, right? It also doubles the spider's potency for the venom. Cool. Okay. Now we say when. When cast on non-spiders, this spell turns the target's head into that of a giant spider. And there were a bunch of those. Okay. The target gains 2 points of head armor and a bite attack of 50% plus weapon skill category modifier. We always get that, right? They do a d6 of damage plus a damage bonus. Oh, we always get damage bonus, don't we? And we get the ability to inject spider venom with a potency equal to the caster's con, not the target's con? Oh, I don't know about that. I think that should be the target. The target's constitution is the potency, not the caster's. Okay. And your bite attack can increase so over time through experience. Duh. Okay. What's not mentioned here is the spider webbing, which my guys encountered. Maybe it's later. I'll have to look. Okay. Spirit armor enchantment. Old spell, right? It gives you spiritual armor. It absorbs points of damage during spirit combat. Magic points. It absorbs magic points of damage during spirit combat. It's an hour-long ritual. After which, I didn't catch this earlier, after which you sacrifice the power. Right? One or more points of power. Each point of power sacrificed to the enchantment imbues the object with 1d3 points of spiritual armor. Good to go. It says it's stackable. So if you cast 2 points of spirit armor enchantment, does that mean you get 2d3 points of spiritual armor for every point of power sacrificed? I don't think so. It should not be stackable. Maybe they're thinking of saying stackable because you're putting extra power points in, but you're just putting power points into it just to get a magic point matrix or a spell matrix. You're not stacking the spell. You're simply putting more power into it. Yeah, cross that thing out. Okay, Spirit Block, game spell. Common rune, protects the target, just like Spirit Armor, right? Each point stacked of this spell adds spiritual armor. 2 points, stopping 2 points, 2 magic points of damage during spirit combat. Here's something new that I did not know before, or I just not looked, right? If the current magic points of the attacking spirit fall below the value of your spirit block, it is unable to continue spirit combat, and the spirit combat ends. What if you don't want it to end? What if you want to zap it down to 0 points so you can freaking take its spells or capture it or whatever? Does that just then end automatically, assuming it can't defend, so somebody takes damage and damage? Or do you have to drop your spirit block to get those last umpteen points of magic out of it? Yeah, I don't like that unless it means that since the spirit can no longer engage in spirit combat, it's captured. You don't have to drop it down to 0, just drop it down below your spirit block. But that makes it even more valuable. And this is something we've been discussing in my group because we've got a shaman who's talking about trying to capture spirits. In fact, he tried to get a heal spirit at one point, but it was so powerful he couldn't engage it with the combat a couple times, took a bunch of damage. I'm out of here. Spirit dancing left, right? So in order to take on really powerful spirits, you need lots of spirit block and spirit armor enchantment. And I'm guessing they're stackable. They're additive. Cumulative, I guess the word they use. But that's significant. And is definitely needed for my Glorantha. If you want a high level spell, you've got to get a high power spirit to get it from. And so you've got to have all of this defense up in order to do anything to this, in order to survive spirit combat with these beasts. Okay. Spirit Guardian, old spell, must be cast upon a friendly ancestral spirit. Sets up mental communication identical to that of an allied spirit. That is cool. So it's like a temporary allied spirit. Okay. Each point stacked, this spell adds a day's duration. So I'm assuming the normal duration is 1 day. It says it's special, but it didn't really specify that for 1 day you have this allied spirit. Okay. And of course, you can only have one spiritual guardian at a time. Good to go. Okay. Spirit Melding. Same. This spell must be cast upon a friendly spirit, ancestral spirit again, enveloping the character. What the caster? What does that mean? How does a friendly ancestral envelop the caster? Unless they simply mean moves onto him, her, whatever. Onto the caster. Moves on to the caster. Doesn't say possessed. That's what I was thinking at first. Doesn't mean he possessed them already? Yeah, but it's like a mutually agreed upon possession type of thing, I guess. It's passive, by the way, from my definition, because of what happens. Okay, so for the spell's duration, the spell adds the friendly ancestral spirit's power to that of the caster when the caster is making resistance rolls during spirit combat and spells. We do not make resistance rolls during spirit combat. It's an opposed roll. So it should say, when making opposed rolls during spirit combat or resisting rolls against spells. Maybe we're trying to make it shorter by combining together, but we don't make resistance rolls against spirit combat. Just like we don't have defense and offense in spirit combat. It's just spirit combat. Okay. If the spirit leaves the caster, the spell ends. Good to go. So you got to make some kind of negotiation with your ancestral spirit. But this could be really wild if you use this going to Scorpid, hunting for spirits in the spirit plane or spirit world. Being able to use the additional power during spirit combat. Does it add offense and defense? Well, it's the same because it's just one roll, so it has to. Okay. Last one for this time. Ooh, 21 minutes. Sorry, guys. I know spell trading took way too long. I know. I'm sorry. Okay. Sprout. New spell. This spell causes a seed to immediately quicken and send forth roots. Over the course of 15 minutes, the duration of the spell, the infant plant grows and expands until teeny shoots unfurl true leaves. This spell affects any whole seed, even if it's cooked, cracked, or diseased. If more than half the seed is missing, like it's been eaten by insects or bugs or riddled with fungus, then the spell has no effect. Happy gaming.